Now. So welcome everyone to the presentation with Jean, which is all on his amazing collection, which is Biowear. So Jean, why don't you maybe introduce yourself to the members as they start to join this call?
Okay, so thank you for having me. So I'm Jean. Um, it's a French name, it's John in French. I'm West African and I'm 24 years old. I now live in Japan. I've been living here for 5 years, since I was 19, right after high school. And I have a background in civil engineering and architectural design. So right now I'm working in Japan and working on my career and I've always been into arts and sci-fi stuff like that. So um yeah, it's been a journey, exploring new mediums, new what it, as far as softwares and stuff like that, and now AI. So yeah, kind of, I'm still learning a lot, still working on my career and learning a lot. But I think it's AI gives us kind of like a great opportunity to push the limits of our creativity and just experiment on new things that maybe we wouldn't have been able to put together uh, with our own brains, because it kind of has access to the internet and it does things in 5 seconds. So it's very, very useful, and I think implementing that in your design process can really, really allow you to kind of up your level of opportunity. So yeah, that's me.
So I have two questions for you before we
Yeah.
run through your collection. So I'd first love to know a little bit about what inspired you to move to Japan. You mentioned that your love of sci-fi, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of your inspirations, if that actually ties in with the Japanese culture at all, or what were some of the reasons?
Um, I would say not really. I think I've always liked Japanese architecture and manga. I've actually discovered Japanese architecture through manga, and I remember I was about 9 years old when my brother came home from school and showed me. That was the first manga book I've seen, and I was fascinated by it, and I started drawing. And I just fell in love with art and architecture and Japan and Japanese culture since then. So I'm kind of very obsessed, as a person, as in when I want something, I do whatever I can to get it. So I've always wanted to come to Japan and become an architect. That was my childhood dream, and that's why I'm here basically. It's not, yeah.
Wow. And did you face challenges in that quest to go to Japan, or was it all kind of smooth sailing?
No, it was hard. I kind of had to start early, very early. I started studying Japanese at 13 years old, around that, when right when I started high school.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was challenging going to high school, going to Japanese school, and I was also working on. I've always been working on a lot of projects myself with some of my friends too. Some geek friends that like sci-fi and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't. I won't say it was smooth, but it was definitely planned. I had my plan in head, and yeah, I think it's a lot easier to go through the challenges when you actually know where you're going and you know what you're doing. So
Exactly, it's worth it in the end. And
yeah.
so what you were saying before is that AI is opening up the possibilities of accessing the whole entire internet. So
Hmm.
does that mean that even as creative people, we sometimes put ourselves into a box and that AI can kind of help break us out of that box? Or is it the opposite? Because what you were sort of mentioning just before with your process is that you use a bot and you train a bot. So over time you develop your own style. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that and your point of view um, on developing your own style in the age of AI and also your process of using bots.
Okay. So, to answer the first question, I think it's a bit of both. I think, so, the reason why I'm kind of really fascinated by AI and its process is that, uh, when I was in architecture school, we kind of had to do the same thing before every project. We had to go do some research, read some books, and put things together. And also have some do a lot of uh, let's say visual researches. Like, okay, if you it's a project about a museum, and you kind of like a Daniel Lipskin fan, a lot of students like Daniel Lipskin or Zaha Hadid, stuff like that. We had our teams there, but basically you kind of go look for some projects from other architects that can inspire you to kind of uh, produce your own projects. So basically, what the AI does is the same thing that we've been taught in architecture school, but at a bigger scale, because you can't have all the images. Like, it's going to take a lot of time to put things together. And okay, I like this visual from Daniel Liskin, this from Zaha Hadid, this from So Fujimoto. Maybe I want to take this idea and this idea, put them together to have my own idea. But it kind of takes a lot of time. It's interesting as a process, but it takes a lot of time. And I don't know how the other schools, around the world do it, but the school I've been to here in Japan, that's how we kind of started every project. And I think it was a very good thing because it forced us to kind of learn how to read a lot and document a lot and absorb some informations and knowledge from other architects and stuff like that. So basically, it's the same thing that the AI does, but it's at a bigger scale and it's a lot faster. So I would say in that sense, it kind of like uh, helps us um, uh, with the we kind of limited, if we kind of have to do things by ourselves. But you use AI, you kind of have access to a much bigger, let's say, creative reservoir, which is the internet. So it kind of remedies that limitation that we have as humans. But at the same time, yeah, you kind of keep evolving, and if you kind of start to develop your own style, maybe you stick to it, and then I don't know, you kind of like put yourself in that box. Like, it's my style, it's my identity. So you kind of like limited yourself to some degree. So I kind of understand that. I think it's uh both at the same time, but it depends on your design philosophy and how you approach design in itself. So when it comes to my inspiration, basically, I'm a bit more, let's say, of an experimentalist. I like doing experiments. I like exploring things. I like trying new things and combining things. And uh, AI is kind of like a great tool to do that. So personally, yeah, I've always, like I said, I've always been interested in sci-fi and stuff, but mainly biopunk. So also, I'm kind of like a deconstructivist a little bit. I've always been fascinated with complex geometries and mathematics, and actually all my works back in architecture school were based on deconstructivism, suprematist paintings, and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to take that side of my architectural design thinking and put that with kind of like the biopunk side, the biopunk, my interest in biopunk and sci-fi to kind of create something new, something that is uh kind of like a new type of aesthetic, that hasn't been seen before, and kind of like develop that and experiment with that and try new things with it and expand it as much as possible. So in order to achieve that, you kind of have to train your bot. You have a mid-journey bot. I've kind of realized that my bot is a bit different from the others because I would send my prompts to other people and they would put in their mid-journey bots, and it won't generate good things like dismembered people, like distorted limbs. And I put the same prompt in my mid journey and it works. So I've with time I think I was able to um kind of train my bot in some way. I think at the beginning it was a bit, I did it unconsciously. I just kept trying new things. When personally, I was trying to learn how the bot works in order to kind of like know, okay, if I put these words before that word, I put this word at this place, it generates this or that, and it kind of changes this or that. So I was kind of trying to learn how the bot functions, but at the same time, I realized that the bot itself was learning my language and the way I prompt and the way I communicated with it. So yeah, I actually I can't even like I don't even know how people do short prompts and have good results because my bot can do short prompts, and I have a very OCD way of doing my prompts, so it kind of gets it. And when I do it like a very short prompt, like it bugs, it doesn't understand how to do it. So um, so yeah, that was kind of like the process. It was at the beginning, it was unintentional. I actually genuinely wanted to learn how it works and understand the mechanisms of it. But I realized that it was kind of learning from me too. So it was kind of like a two-way street and a learning experience for both of us, I think. So yeah.
So when you say that you've got a bot, does that mean that you're not using Midjourney? And is it
No, I'm using Midjourney. I'm talking about the Midjourney bot, but I think that's something I think is that the one I use it's kind of it's a bit different from others because I've taken other people's prompts and it doesn't work with my Midjourney, and I send them my prompts and that like it doesn't work in the Midjourney. So I don't know. I think to some degree it depends. When you create like a private server and you install that bot there, that bot learns your patterns and your style of prompt and is able to adapt itself and to produce uh what you ask it. But when you start putting like other, let's say another language, which is another way of prompting from another person, it kind of doesn't really know how to react to it. So I've done um that experience, that experiment a little bit with people, and yeah, because I'm used to collaborate with a lot of people, left and right. So yeah.
great? And which fashion designers inspire some of your work? I've seen Alexander McQueen, for example. Could you tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that and why they inspire you?
Oh yeah. So I would say the first one would be Iris van Herpen. That would be the first one. Alexander McQueen, of course. I would say Kanye West. I would say Yoji Yamamoto, and yeah, I think that's the main people that I take a lot of inspiration from. Well, Kanye West for the sneakers, stuff like that. And as far as artists, I would say that at the beginning I was putting a lot of HR Geiger in my prompts, but then I kind of there is also something that I've kind of had to learn while using AI, and it was to kind of learn how to break down like an image, like a design visually, and put it in words. So if you look at something that I don't know, a design from Alexander McQueen, and you look at it, you kind of try to break it down. Okay, the top looks like this. You kind of try to describe it, to deconstruct it a little bit, and then try to reconstruct it in a prompt so that you can output something, something good out of Mid Journey. So yeah, I think that's kind of been my process for a long time, and I've uh, with the experiment and stuff, I kind of it kind of became like an instant to me to kind of like look at a design and say, okay, I see, I describe it a little bit, I kind of deconstruct it in my head a little bit, and then I put it in words, and then I make a prompt about it, and uh, I do some research, for example, when it comes to the fabrics that I want, the colors that I want, stuff like that, and I put in a lot of details. I like my prompts are really long. I really like detailing everything I want to the bot, and then I input it, and I get the results I get. So yeah.
And so how long are your prompts and how many versions do you have to go through? And also you were mentioning, sometimes you say, okay, this looks like this. Are you using traditional fashion terminology in terms of like materials and garments and terminology most people in the fashion industry would know? Or are you, because obviously this is Biowear, are you taking inspiration from the natural world and saying, I want a dress that looks like an octopus or I don't know, an orchid.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a real learning curve for me too. At the beginning, I was, yeah, taking more inspiration from, organic geometry, nature, things like that. And as I was, evolving and developing new ways to get better images and make better prompts, I kind of felt the need to start learning, you know, some fashion terms a little bit. I actually am thinking of starting 3D fashion and stuff like that. So I'm really taking it seriously. I'm kind of learning a little bit. So let's say the last 2 months I've been learning and changing my prompts a little, putting a bit more of fashion technical terminologies in my prompts. But from the beginning, I would say it was mostly like um yeah, based on nature. But I kind of used a bit some not necessarily technical, but some words that that are commonly known by people, you know but also used in the fashion industry. But yeah, I think it was definitely an evolution there, starting from just taking inspiration from nature itself to now being a bit more specific and talking about describing more specifically the garments and we what do I want at that part or this part, being a bit more specific and getting more into the details and
Fantastic.
stuff. Yeah.
And you say this is a lot of this is an experimentation, but do you have, an end goal in mind with the fashion side of things? Are you really exploring the digital world to create digital fashion for games in the metaverse, or
Yes,
is it more physical?
I actually really want to dive into fashion design, the fashion industry, and definitely learn more, get into 3D. And I've recently done a collaboration with a Swedish fashion designer based in France, and we had really good results. He actually really liked it, so he's going to sue one of uh, the designs we've made, and probably the next month, yeah, he's going to do that. He's on vacation now. So yeah, I'm really looking for developing a certain style and really 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 kind of like working on that new aesthetic that is based on nature, and kind of like blending arts, nature, and fashion. And uh, I would say producing more like wearable arts, artistic garments. I think that's kind of like my goal. And yeah, working on the aesthetic and developing, new ways of designing fashion, new approaches, new design theories, and just keep experimenting, and trying new tools and evolving with
Mm,
that. So, yeah.
fantastic. And is part of Bioware about sustainability? Oh, what's the link between, Bioware and sustainability?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, yeah.
So I was
Hello?
asking about if there's a link between Bioware and sustainability. Is part of the mission to create more sustainable fashion?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Jesus.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So
Hello?
I was just wondering
Yeah.
if Bioware has anything to do with sustainability.
Yeah. So that is also something I've been thinking about. And first of all, I started with the materials. I'm actually very intentional and specific in my prompts when I describe the materials I want. So my first goal was to actually, because this is kind of like a speculative exercise for me, and I started with experimenting with sustainable materials like biodegradable plastics, organic cotton, recyclable fibers. I've done a bit of research and I started using these materials in my prompts. And I think um, personally producing these type of garments, with certain sustainable materials can not only help with the problem of fast fashion and the waste of fashion. I've witnessed it myself. I lived in Africa, and it's kind of like a dumpster of Western fashion. Everything goes there, in containers, and they get dumped there. I've seen it, firsthand. So I think it can solve that issue if we use recyclable materials and stuff like that, and also doing very pretty complicated garments will kind of I would say force people to prioritize um, quality over quantity. So you have these garments, maybe if one of them is going to be produced, I don't know. It's a speculative work. I don't know if any of the garments I've made are actually, it can actually be produced in real life. But let's just say that let's just speculate that it would actually promote slow fashion instead of fast fashion, which we kind of force designers to prioritize quality over quantity, and also being able to produce these type of work can kind of force us designers to innovate, to figure out and explore innovative technologies and techniques that further reduce environmental impacts of fashion, and you know maybe for example figuring out new dyeing methods or methods that can help us use less water, you know and yeah, I think it can there is a positive to it. It could help with sustainability, and also kind of give a regenerative approach to design to which I think I really believe that we kind of have to um, go back to nature and learn from nature and inspire ourselves from nature. I think there is a very resourceful thing that we have here, and we can learn a lot from it. There are so many things that we can discover and so many things that we can explore in nature, and learn and implementing our designs and produce, better designs instead of repetitive fast fashion and wearing the same things. So
Mm.
I think it can definitely there's definitely some positive to it. Yeah.
I think there will definitely be innovation in the future when it comes to materials and 3D printing, maybe taking
Yeah.
some of the plastics and 3D printing those waste plastics into some of these beautiful pieces. So you turn waste and trash into a beautiful piece of art. And if that
Mm.
is the future, which countries do you think would adopt that the first? You mentioned that in Africa, they're
Um,
seeing firsthand, all of the waste. So surely they would be maybe some of the first to say,
yeah,
"Oh,
I would say the US, I would say maybe
yeah,
yeah, US is a bit more, let's say, liberal thinking when it comes to, innovation and stuff like that. I wanted to say Japan, but then I remembered that a bit conservative, you know.
hmm, they're a bit."
So
So that must be a struggle for you as such an innovator to live in such a conservative country to an extent. You still here?
hello, hi,
Hi,
hello, sorry,
fantastic.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So you said Africa
Sorry. So I
definitely.
was saying, sorry.
Carry on, please.
Sorry. So I was saying that I wanted to say Japan, but then I remembered that, for example, here in architecture, like in my field, they don't necessarily use the tools and the softwares the advanced softwares that are used in the West. They have their own softwares, instead of ArchiCAD or AutoCAD have JWCAD, and it's all Japanese and they have their own thing going on. So um Japan is definitely a land of innovation and it's definitely the future. But when it comes to that, I think the West would be more prone to explore that rather than Japan. Yeah.
Very interesting. And where these pieces. Great. And I'm just going to zoom in on some of the shoes that you created. So can you tell us a little bit more about the shoes? So they were inspired by Kanye West, you said?
Yeah. So these shoes, yeah, Nike, Kanye West, Saleh Bembury too. Um, he's a shoe.
And he's gone. You're back.
Hello,
You're back.
hello. I'm
Yeah.
back. Okay, sorry. So I was saying I've also done some stuff inspired from Crocs, but these ones are mainly Converse, Eon, and Nike. So yeah,
Well, absolutely fantastic. So inspiring. You're clearly a real visionary, and I can't wait to see all the incredible things that you do in the field of architecture, in fashion, um, and I really look forward to being part of that journey with you. In what way
thank you.
is community important for developing AI and some of these innovations in your opinion?
Um, yeah, I think um, and that's a good question. Personally, I think there, AI is not perfect. There are definitely some things to better to do better with it. There are definitely some things that need to be corrected and that need to evolve. So of course it's going to be a curve, and it's going to keep getting better and better, and a lot of things are going to keep getting developed. So I think as a human civilization, we've always had to do things together in order to make things move forward. So yeah, it's definitely important to have everyone's opinion, everyone's creativity, everyone's philosophies, and you know it is really important to talk and see how we can put things together and look at things from different perspectives and see how we can move forward from that. So, which is, the main purpose of having a community. So I think it is really important to have a community and tackle certain issues, recognize certain issues that we have, whether it comes to AI or whether it comes to its impact on jobs or human society, whether it's, socioeconomical issues or geopolitical issues, things like that, and, figure out how we can use that cutting edge technology to better our civilization rather than, use it to destroy ourselves. So yeah.
Well, I think that's a really, really good point. And for those people who are scared of AI, who might be, in the traditional workforce, or maybe they're even in a university, like a university professor, should they be scared
Mm.
of AI, or what would be your message to them to start getting into AI and embracing it?
I mean, there always people were scared of the calculator back then, and now we have computers, and people were scared of that. So I mean, even in my field in architecture, people used to draw by hand, and we still learn that traditional way in school because it's really important. But now you can't be hired if you don't know how to use the software. So I think to some, I won't say it's the how do you say that? I wouldn't say it's the tyranny of technology, but at some point you're going to have to adapt yourself or kind of like die out. So I think being afraid of AI, it's kind of like the same thing when the calculator came around and people said no one will be able to do some calculations anymore, and then we kind of evolved, and we have all the technologies we have now. So when there is something new, there are always going to be some people that will be skeptical about it. So it shouldn't stop us from, keep pushing and trying new things because that's how we have come to, where we are. Civilization is just the nature of the human to do that. And, either you evolve or you devolve. There is no stagnant state. You don't stay stagnant. Either you evolve or you devolve. So we have to evolve, and we can't be scared of the future. We can't be scared of technology. We have to learn how to use technology for our own benefit and dominate it, and use it to better our society, our planet, and our future. You know,
Mhm.
maybe people were scared to go at sea, and then the Vikings said, you know what, let's do it, and then they traveled the world. So someone's got to do it. Some people will be scared, but someone still got to do it, and that's how we make things move forward, and that's what makes us the apex animals on Earth, the humans. So
Mm.
it's just in our nature to do that. We can't be scared of our nature and who we are. We have to embrace it and learn how to use it for our own benefit and for the benefit of our planet and all living beings on Earth. So I think it's kind of our responsibility to do that, as we have a lot of power. We've basically conquered Earth, you know. So we're the only animals to do that, to evolve and be able to do that. So it's kind of our responsibility to use that gift that nature gave us to preserve what we have, and yeah, build a better future for our children and for the continuum of our species. So
That's
yeah, I think it's yeah.
And I think that that ties into, your thoughts on sci-fi, that, a lot of these garments are less so for wearing on Earth and more in space. Could you just tell us a little bit about that, and what you see the future of fashion being in the context of space?
Oh, should have told me. I've done so many conceptual EVA suits and space wear. Yeah, I mean, I think every personally, just my vision is that um every planet, every star has its own properties and things like that. So I think if we go to Venus and we're going to maybe establish a civilization on Venus, it's going to be in the clouds because we can go down the clouds, so it's going to be above the clouds of Venus, and the atmospherical conditions and all of that will force us to kind of think about designing suits that are specifically used for surviving on Venus or surviving on Mars or surviving on whatever other planets you want to go to. So that is going to be kind of like the future of space where if we are able to conquer space and stuff like that, we will have to develop suits and EVA suits that will be uh, let's say practical when it comes to this type of space or this type of planet or that type of planet. So I think yeah, it's going to be really interesting um, if we're going to conquer other planets. It's probably going to be very interesting, and I think it kind of leaves room for a lot of speculations and imaginations, and it's a really great realm to explore, and you know think about, okay, if it's on Mars and you have the radiations and you have this and that, what can we do? How do we design the clothings? And how do you implement incorporate the oxygen in that clothing, and based on the gravity, how much should it weigh, things like that. So it's a really I'm actually really fascinated by that. um it's another totally different realm to explore, and I think we're just going to keep studying and getting better at it. So yeah, but definitely it's going in the future. It's going to be based on, we can have just one spacesuit for every planet like we see on sci-fi movies, because every planet is different. So it's going to be different, based on every planet or every star that we go to. So I think yeah, that's going to be the future space where if we kind of get to a type uh to civilization, maybe Kardijevsky, you know.
Fantastic. And one last question from me, and then of course, if there are any questions from the audience, love to invite people to come on and to ask their questions. Um, but in terms of the tools that we have today, they are a little bit flawed in terms of ChatGPT, for example. It will hallucinate, it will make up answers. So you can't ask it an exact question and expect it to give you, fact or truth. The same
Mm,
thing applies to, if you're an architect and you're using Midjourney, you're creating beautiful 2D images, but you're not creating the kind of floor plans with the right engineering
yeah.
specs. Same thing goes
Mm,
for fashion. Fashion is quite technical. You're creating like an origami, even if it's a t-shirt that needs to be cut and sewn together, and it needs to be
yeah.
the exact dimensions for the size of your body and things like that. So
Mm.
what is your opinion on that? And do you think that it's important that we have generative AI tools that are a little bit more technical and can be used in those use cases in engineering, on fashion manufacturing and that side of things?
Yeah, I think we're going to get there. We're going to figure that out. We definitely will, and it's going to raise another issue, because now people are going to say, okay, now we have an AI that's going to take our jobs in fashion, right? It's always it's always going to be yeah. a problem there. But I think we're going to reach that point.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're already using 3D printing in fashion already. Um, I mean, we look at the works of Iris von Verpen, and she uses, I think she uses Rhino, which is a software, for architects, Grasshopper Rhino, to design her fashion, to do her fashion designs and stuff like that. So there's going to be it's already happening, multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, and you know connectivity in between different disciplines. That's already happening, and I think AI softwares have made it a bit easier. We use Unreal Engine in architecture now, and Unreal Engine is, you know, traditionally something used by game developers, but we use that to do. So how they use is Unreal Engine to render their projects now, you know. So as the softwares have allowed that to happen now with AI, it's like the boundaries between disciplines is just completely, blurred. And um, I think at some point we yes, we will reach a point where, we're going to have that level of technicality in AI. But, right now we still need humans. And I think even then we still need humans too, because AI will never be perfect. We still need humans to kind of double check, the technicalities and stuff like that. And also, I don't know, could we reach a point where the AI understands all the human conditions and all that? I wouldn't be able to tell, because even if you make a design, uh, for architecture, for example, you make a 2D design, but then you go on the site, and what we learn is that, there are realities on the site, there are, conditions on the site, and there is I don't know, the weather, there is, the site could be a slope, things like that, and the foundation, and maybe it's an area that gets flooded often. So you have to take all of these things in account to, design the house. So you can have, the nice 2D design as much as you want. You still need the human factor to bring it to completion. So yeah, I just want we will still need humans, but will we reach a point where we might not? Maybe, probably, but I think it's not going to be 100%. You're still going to need humans to some degree.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. That was a really, really fascinating talk, and I can now see the intersection between architecture and fashion is really around these materials and 3D printing. That seems to be the kind of crossover there. And as you said,
Mm,
there's architecture and gaming and Unreal Engine. So each one of these different industries are all, taking different tools from one another and using it in different
yeah.
ways. That's where we see the most
Mm.
innovation, which is so exciting. Great. Any questions from people listening in today? Thank you so much for joining on a Friday. I think, where's the best place for people to get in touch with you, Jean?
Instagram, I would
Instagram.
say
Perfect.
object. Yeah,
You've got two
object.
Instagrams.
See, yeah, I actually got to. Um, yeah, the one that's verified is object 0BJ6KT.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Is it
O is a zero, the E is a six, and instead of C, it's a K. So objects, just
fantastic?
objects.
Okay,
It's
great.
verified, so you can find it easily. Um,
Fantastic. So they can
yeah,
DM you there. Is one meant to
yeah,
be
yeah.
more PC and public facing, and the other one's got more extreme fashion, or um, is it just
I don't,
happenstance that you have two?
no. That one is just fashion, and the other one is kind of like more like a personal thing. It's kind of professional, but personal at the same time, you know.
Okay, got it.
But the object is just dedicated to fashion only. So yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, we've got a little something in the chat. Thank you. So yes, thank you so much. That was absolutely great. And
Thanks for having me.
looking forward to collaborating with you in future.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.